Hello everyone, Lady Rose here with you today. It has been a journey getting here. That's all I have to say. Well, actually I have a lot more to say, but if you know anything about me, I'm long-winded if nothing else. But I am playing with a new toy. If you watched my last video about junk journaling craft along that I did, you'll know that I've got this new toy. So I'm working with a new camera and a new microphone, and I'm figuring out how they work together. And I'm still fairly new to the YouTube live streaming kind of stuff and whatnot. So I'm excited to be here. I'm glad you could stop by and watch this for a while. I'm very excited to do this series of videos that I'm planning. So if you've ever had a session with me, as you know, I'm a tarot reader sort of by trade, but I bring a lot of other things to the table. I'm also an energy worker and healer and a shaman. I like to refer to myself as a spiritual Sherpa. So I am your guide on whatever path you are taking, but ultimately it's your path and your journey. And I'm just here to shed some light on some of the darker spots or the harder spots to get through. And what this series of videos are, is they're going to be the 9 keys to happiness or of happiness. So the 9 keys of happiness. So I've started a new thing. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that there's a new sort of session kind of thing that I've put out, and I call it the happiness session. So if you look for me on Facebook, I'm Goddess Garage Tarot Parlor. That's my page. I'll put the link below. So if you want to be on there, you're more than welcome there. That's where I put a lot of the upcoming new things that are happening, events that are happening, as well as sales. And I do a lot of cross continent, across country, across the world kind of things as well. So don't feel like if you're not in my town, you can't have my services. Because of technology that we have today, I can definitely do sessions. I do lots of online tarot readings. I also do happiness sessions. And that's the new thing, the happiness sessions that I've put out there. Because happiness sessions, what I'm trying to do is combine everything all into one. I don't want to necessarily like we're doing this today, right? So yes, I do tarot. I'm an astrologist. I do numerology reports as well. I've studied all those things. I'm also a Mohawk of the Iroquois Nation, Bear Clan shaman. I'm a 9th degree crystal Reiki grandmaster. I'm a certified life coach and a certified life purpose coach. I'm a grief counselor. I'm many, many, many things. I won't list everything here, but I live a very magical life. And once you get to know me, you realize it's a very magical life that I do. I'm also a fairyologist. That's the other thing. And yes, that is a thing. So I do know a lot about fairies. And a lot of times when I'm doing like live videos for the tarot readings that I do every Monday on our Mystic Monday shows at 7 o'clock, if you want to tune in, that a lot of times people are like, there's fairies all around you. So often there are fairies around. So if you want to tune in and just watch for the fairies, you can do that too. And you'll figure out like what the sort of rhythm is of Mystic Mondays if you want to tune in one time or many times. Anyways, this video here is the introduction to the 9 keys of happiness. So if you know anything about me, I'm a concrete girl. And when I'm working with my clients, I like to bring them concrete things to do to work their way through whatever you have to work your way through. We all have stuff, behind us. We have traumas, we have insecurities, we have fears, we have anger issues, we've got hurt issues, that sort of thing. So we have all this stuff that we're always like sort of carrying around with us. And how do I bring happiness into my life? How do I make my life better? How do I create a magical life for myself? Right? And you can do it. No matter where you are right now, you can do it. Excuse me while I adjust my accoutrements here. The other thing is I'm a big Looney Tunes fan, huge Looney Tunes fan. So you'll see a lot of quotes from them, or you'll hear them anyways. So as I was saying, I like concrete things. So, sometimes you'll go to someone, a spiritual guidance counselor of sorts, and they'll say a lot of good things that make you feel good, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds so right, and yeah, that's really resonating, and oh, okay, a better life is, you know, possible for me. And you go home and you're feeling good, and then you're like, okay, so now what do I do? So what I do in my happiness sessions is I customize a happiness session for you. We kind of play how your vibration is and how your life is, and customize it so you can get to where you want to be, a better life. Because even if you pick up a book, a lot of these self-help books are very formula driven, and they're, like, if you're like this, do that, and do this and do that, and not, it's sort of a one size fits all, and not all are one size fits all. So you want something more customized as opposed to a one size fits all, especially when it comes to your life, your happiness, your success, and all the abundance that can be coming into your life. You don't want, like, here, if I do A, B, and C, then boom, it's done, right? No, it's much more complicated than that, but it's easy at the same time when you know what to do. And that's where the spiritual Sherpa, like me, comes in. So I'm here as your guider, nothing else. I don't do the work for you. And a lot of my clients notice that I send them home with homework, so that because you're feeling good in the session, you're saying, oh yeah, this can happen, and I'm having a breakthrough moment, or I'm having an aha moment. You go home, and with me, this is what I need to do. This is what I have to watch out for. This is what I have to be more mindful of. And I give you very, very specific instructions, catered and customized to you. So these 9 keys of happiness are amazing. They're real gifts. And one thing I do like is I like concrete, tangible results, tangible things to do. And this explains a lot of the science behind why energy works, if you know how to work it. Okay, so these are sort of overviews of a lot of the techniques that I do employ, but they can be more specialized and customized to you. Now, watching these videos on their own will definitely help. Absolutely. If you want to go deeper, if you want to be more specialized, if you want your life customized more, then reach out to me on my many social platforms and let me know, because, like, it's a session. We can book it just online, in person, whatever way you want to do it. If you have a beautiful house by the lake, you can always fly me out, that sort of thing, right? So we can figure it out. We will figure it out, and we will get you the 9 keys of happiness and teach you how to use your keys, because not every key fits every lock. And these 9 keys are sort of more like skeleton keys. They definitely work, but if you want a key that opens your lock, then you can seek me out for those more one-on-one kind of sessions. So like I said, I'm going to sort of explain the science behind, because science is kind of catching up with the energy workers and the shamans and stuff like that. We've always kind of been viewed as woo-woo, that sort of thing. People like roll their eyes sometimes at some of the techniques, that people present to them. And it's just like, I often use the analogy of, if you went back in time, medieval times, ancient Greece or whatever, with a lighter, a Bic lighter, or a pen, a ballpoint pen, you would be seen as a magician, right? So, and your stuff would be a little woo-woo. You would kind of be like, he's all powerful, or she's all powerful. She can create fire with the flick of her finger. She can write for many hours without having to re-dip the pen, So anything we don't understand as humans is often put in that magical category, that woo-woo category. But science is now starting to catch up to that energy work kind of that has been put into that category. So I'm going to talk about why maybe you're not in your best life, why you're not in the happiness that you want to be in, why is life not the super success that you hoped it would be, or maybe you're okay, but there's got to be something more, like I'm not suffering, as far as like I got food in my cupboards, and I got a car in my driveway, and I got blankets, warm, cozy blankets on my bed. I've got the spouse and the kids, and, but there's got to be something more. So we're going to go into that. And like I said, this is just the introduction. So I've got all my notes here. So excuse me while I read a little bit too. So what these keys will do is they'll give relief and true healing for many frustrations, many of your pains, many of your heartaches, and on and on and on. So did you know that most healing and success, because the two go hand in hand very much, needs to start from the inside out? So this is the thing. And this is the interesting point, is that a lot of people, when you say, oh, you got to start inside, you got to start with the spiritual and the mental, people are like, oh God, really? And and I'll tell you why they do this. So most people, unfortunately, do it backwards. They start from the outside in. So many people start on the outside. And why is this? Because it's something we can see. It's tangible. You can't see our spirit. You can't see our soul. And yes, we know we have brains, but we're not walking around looking at our brains and seeing our mental health right in front of us. But you can see when your body is hurting, when you have some physical ailment, or when you're not quite balanced, right? Maybe you're what's deemed overweight, or whatever it might be. So this is something they can see. It's something that is tangible. And we work much better on the tangible than this, oh, it's not sort of there, but not really kind of thing. So we can see if we are not in good health. We can see it in the mirror, right? You get the bags under your eyes and the wrinkles start, and, you put on a couple of pounds or whatever it might be. And we can see if our bodies are not in the shape or the size that we want. Those are things that we can understand that needs to be fixed, at least in our perception. We can see if we don't have the money. That's the other thing, right? Financial stuff. We can see if we don't have the money. We can see that we don't have the material goods, trying to keep up with the Joneses, as the old expression goes. If we don't have the material goods we want, that is something we can reach for easily, more easily than the other stuff, the inside stuff, right? We can see if we don't have the love of our life at our side. That is a big, big one for a lot of people. How do I make this happen? So we think, if I can just get these things, then the rest will fall into place. And to a certain extent, yes, but no. Okay. There's a lot of yes, but no kind of answers to a lot of these sort of metaphysical kind of questions for on the journey to a happier, better, more successful life. Excuse me. So how many diet ads, for instance, have you seen where once you lose the weight, the promise is when you lose the weight, you'll be more enthusiastic, you'll be more desirable, you'll be more successful, you'll be, and the big one is, happier. And that's just not true. The repeated diets that you've been on, the lifestyle changes that you've had to make, they're something that's temporary. And they're also something that needs to be repeated. And the diet industry knows this. It's not, again, it's not a one and done, but it's also not something that's easy to stick to because you haven't worked on the inside. Once the inside is worked on, the outside starts to fall in place. But most people want to work on the outside and hope that the inside falls into place. And the inside is a much bigger, stronger driving force. So it's like putting Band-Aids on, surgical cuts that are wide open. It's just not going to fix the problem. And a lot of times when our frustrations, our anger, our grieving, our traumas, and all that kind of stuff start to manifest physically, it's kind of like this is the last thing that our bodies and our minds and our souls and spirits do to show us that something's out of balance. It's kind of like when you're dehydrated. Speaking of which, I'm going to take a sip of something here. It's sort of like when you're thirsty. The first thing the body will do, and it's really weird that it does this, but oftentimes when you're craving something sweet, you think, oh, I could go for something really sweet right now. It usually means you're thirsty. Feeling thirsty is one of the last things your body does to tell you you're thirsty. Because the reason it does this, and a lot of people are like, well, that's awfully dumb. The reason it does this is because when you eat, you tend to want to drink. And your body knows, okay, if I get some food into her, she's going to have a drink of something, because you get thirsty when you eat. So that's sort of, it's the same thing. They do the same thing with dog treats. They make the dog treats to a point where the dog will want to drink water afterwards so that the dog stays hydrated. Same thing with humans. So that's why it puts out that sensation of wanting something sweet or something salty or whatever. It's your body saying you need more water, you need to hydrate. So it's trying to get you to eat to trick you into drinking. So the same thing with the outside. If the outside of you is not doing well, maybe you're manifesting in some illness of some kind, it's often the last sign that our souls tell us that something is out of whack, out of balance. So what is it everyone is missing? What are we missing here, right? It's an inside job. Okay, that's all well and good. And then you go, okay, so what do I have to do? Just try and be happier, fake it till I make it, that sort of thing. And it's often hard to reach. It can be very hard to reach. However, it's hard to understand sometimes. We got to wrap our minds around a few things and perceive, because we can't see it. It's not like you could take your spirit out, set it on the table and go, okay, what the hell do you need me to do? Doesn't work that way. And it often sounds like hard work. It's like, oh, I have to do this and feel better and say these things and la la la. And it's like, oh, that sounds so hard. Because it's mental work. A lot of it's mental work, and we would rather do the physical work, because the physical work, like going to the gym or denying ourselves that cookie, is actually easier, even if you're crying because you can't eat the cookie. It's actually easier than doing the inside work. So we tend to avoid the inside work because it's harder work and we can't see it. We're like, I don't understand this. So you're being told it's a choice of A versus B. And the simple answer is no, it's not that. It's a choice, but sometimes you have reactions to this hard work. And they are reactions for a reason. The reactions of avoiding and not wanting to be doing the inside work. So let me explain this. There are a few things you need to know. Your body, along with everyone else's, that everybody walking this planet, are all born with a self-healing program inside you. Yes, we're all born with a self-healing program inside us that is designed and is capable of fixing pretty much every problem, even before it actually becomes a problem. Okay? So yes, our body's natural state is to be in a state of great and good health. That's our natural state. So if you're not in good health, you are not in your natural state. And your body is trying to fix that constantly. And in perfect balance is our natural state as well. That's where happiness lies. Okay? So bear with me. Stay with me here. The Creator made us to be healthy and capable of healing what ails us, no matter what it may be. No matter what it may be. So know this, your body, even now, is a healing, curing machine of miracles. Your body is a healing, curing machine of miracles. It is capable of healing even the most heinous of diseases. But we get so far out of balance that we're so far gone that sometimes it's hard to come back from that. And it's not like, oh, okay, I'm over here in bad health and I want to be over here, so I'm going to decide, and then boom, it's just done. Again, no, because it took many, many, many little things for you to get out here. So it's going to take many little things to get back to that state of good health. But it is possible. And no matter where you are, it is possible. Where you are in life, I mean, not where you are physically. So unless you're living next door to, Chernobyl, then move if you're living there. So next thing you need to know is there is one thing and only one that can turn off your healing, curing machine of miracles. Okay? So your body and all the cells within it are a healing, curing, miracle machine that's always working. But there's one thing that can turn it off, and that thing is stress. Yes, I said stress. According to the Stanford University Medical School, there was a research paper that was recently released. Well, not that recently, but recently enough, 1998. So, not like back in the day kind of thing. And it was released by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And it said he's a cell biologist, and he reported that stress is the cause of 95% of all illnesses and all diseases. What's the other 5%, you ask? Let me tell you. 5% is genetic. 95% of all illnesses and all diseases are stress related or caused by stress. And the other 5% is genetic. That's a very small percentage. Interesting though, right? So let me talk a little bit more about this. Again, stay with me. Harvard Medical School states that on their website that, quote, too much stress for too long creates what is known as chronic stress, which has been linked to heart disease, stroke, and may also influence cancer and the development of cancer and the development of chronic diseases and respiratory diseases. And illness is just the tip of the iceberg. Stress affects you emotionally as well, marring the joy you gain from life and loved ones, end quote. So that's quite a statement. Not only does it affect us physically, but it affects us in the ability to even enjoy life and enjoy our loved ones. And, it affects us on that mental, spiritual level through probably things like depression and anxiety and all that kind of stuff. But then it also starts to manifest physically in things like stroke, heart disease, chronic illnesses like fibromyalgia, all the kind of different things, migraine headaches, that sort of thing. So stress starts way before it manifests. So if you've been diagnosed with diabetes or heart disease or fibromyalgia or anything like that, it's been years of you getting there. Okay? And manifesting physically, like I said, is one of the last things. It's kind of like when your body finally says, yeah, you're thirsty, have a drink of water. It goes through all these other stages first before it does that. So your body, if it's manifesting physically, then it's been in there for a while, this stress. And those extra pounds, that down feeling, that depression, that hopeless feeling, the chronic tiredness, and any other health problem are all symptoms of stress. Symptoms, okay? And once you treat the stress on the inside, the problems on the outside start to go away, okay? So We are trying to treat, what we are trying to treat are the symptoms instead of true healing, and the true healing of the real issue of stress. Now, this is not your everyday garden variety stress. This isn't like, it's not, your boss yelling at you or whatever. It's a deep-seated stress that is always there despite the fact of your current circumstances. So it's a stress that's ingrained within you. And what this particular stress is doing is it is literally turning off your immune system and causing you to become ill. So I'm going to explain why it does that. So this is some of the science behind this. But there is good news. The good news is that it is not your fault. Yay. Okay. So know that it's not your fault. You can stop blaming and beating yourself up. So it's not that, you ate the cookie. It's not that you didn't go to the gym. It's not that I'm not taking such great care of myself. Oh, it's not that, well, I'm always tired and I'm blaming myself for the mistakes I make at work or whatever. So no amount of willpower can fix this. Thus the reason if, say, overweight or wanting to lose some pounds is one of your symptoms. So you keep doing diet after diet after diet. You keep restarting the gym membership and you're on this vicious cycle like a hamster on a wheel kind of thing. And you lose some, but then you gain it back. And then you lose some, you fall off the wagon, and then you beat yourself up, and then your stress goes up. So then the pounds go up. It all goes, to hell in a handbasket, basically. So you can stop beating yourself up. That's the first thing that you need to do. Stop beating yourself up and blaming yourself. Stop blaming your bad habits or your laziness or whatever. So you're not lazy. You're not dumb or stupid. You're not a bad person with horrible habits and a horrible lifestyle. You're not, okay? I mean, yeah, don't eat McDonald's every day, but, for the most part, you're doing your best, right? You're getting along. You're moving. You're moving. Might not be forward, might be a little sideways sometimes, but you're moving. So that's good, right? So take a breather from your efforts. Sit down and breathe. That's something we don't do enough of either, is breathing. That's a whole other discussion. I'll talk about that later. And here's the big one. Forgive yourself and love yourself. And I know I use that love word all the time, and people think, there she goes on that cheesy love tangent. And, life can't be a rom-com. It's like, in fact, it can be. But there is some work that leads up to it. Okay. So anyways, here we go. So forgive yourself for all wrongs you've perceived yourself of being guilty of. And remember, listen, I used the word perceived yourself of being guilty of. So a lot of times we hold a bar super, super high that is unachievable. And I always say people love to be right even when they're wrong. Okay. So if you hold this bar this high and you fail at it and you go, every diet I go on, I always fail. And then you fail. People, a lot of times as humans, we go, see, I failed the diet because I always fail diets. I never can stick to a diet, right? You're reinforcing that belief that is becoming a truth in you. And we love to be right, even when we fall down, even when we're wrong. So I failed on my diet. I fell off the wagon, but I was right. I already predicted that I was going to do that. So there you go. I was right. Right. And we dwell on that part. That's where our ego stays, is there. See, we were right when things went sideways and went, it became a shit show kind of thing. I'm a bit of a sweary person too. So sometimes I hesitate because I'm going to put in a bad word there. So, forgive me if that offends your ears. I'm sorry. But anyways, now there's still something to do. So I'm going to share with you some very powerful life-changing keys, and there are 9 of them. The first thing is learning that there is something that can heal the stress that is the cause and root of all our illnesses, all our problems, all our moods, all our frustrations, okay? How to turn on our self-healing machine of miracles. And I'm going to give you the keys on how to turn that back on, okay? And it starts from the inside, not the outside. These keys can turn the immune system and the healing systems back on. Because when our bodies function as they were built to function in their natural state, then we are capable of healing just about anything, including our blocks that we've put up, our walls against wealth, success, and love. So when we start healing ourselves on that inside, success, wealth, love, good health fall into place. But you got to start on the inside. So in these next videos, I will be sharing the 9 keys with you. And that will bring you to a better, happier life, a better health, and oh, so much prosperity. Guaranteed to happen. Now, right now, I'm going to be putting out a video once a week. I'm going to try and do it every Friday. So this is the first one. Then there's the 9 keys that I'm going to do. So the first key will be next Friday, for instance. Now, if you're watching this 3 years later, this may have already happened. So right now, in the present moment, it's July, still 29th or something, 2021. It's going to just go on my regular YouTube channel, but it may at some point get put behind a paid wall. If you do happiness sessions, a series of happiness sessions with me, you will be given the videos as part of your homework. So you'll get behind that paid wall should I do that. So look me up on Patreon if you can, either now or later. I'm not doing much with Patreon right now. I'm in the middle of a reboot for it, because I started it and then I kind of waned on it and I didn't really do much with it. So I'm in the middle of a reboot. So know that if you find me on Patreon, that's great. Follow me if you can or whatever. But not all the levels are completely worked out. So don't commit to a level yet. You will find out either on one of my Mystic Mondays that I do here live on YouTube every Monday at 7, or on my Facebook page, probably on my Instagram as well. I will make the announcement that the Patreon's up and going, and that's when you can become a supporter of me, which would be nice. So anyways, back to the keys. So now stay with me. Like I said, I know it sounds too good, but just hear me out. Trust me, in the end, you will be so happy to have these keys. And the cool thing is, you'll have them. You have the keys. You'll have them for life. You can use them whenever you want. They're yours now. Once you know the knowledge, you know how to use it. Again, like I said at the beginning, we can customize those keys to you and your life path through happiness sessions one-on-one. So you are going to need to learn where this deep-seated stress came from. Because it's not, like I said earlier, not just your garden variety stress. It's not your boss or your family causing you this stress that's creating disease. It's not the incredibly numerous bad drivers out there that are, road raging, that are causing this deep-seated stress. This is a different kind of stress. So it's not your regular, like, oh, I'm stressed because of my job kind of thing. So you're going to see how this stress wormed and snaked its way in to develop the problems in your life, and why this stress appears to be resistant to healing. Not really. It is and it isn't. It depends on how you use the keys and knowing about the keys and how to use them. So it's just you keep taking, well, I use the analogy, okay? So we know something's off. We want to fix ourselves. So we go on a diet and we do this, or we go to the gym, or we, whiten our teeth, or whatever it is that's going to perhaps help us be a better person, attract more life, attract more abundance, that sort of thing. But basically, when you're starting from the outside, and working in as opposed to the other way around, you're basically taking X-Lax for a headache and then wondering why you keep crapping your pants and why your head is still throbbing. So you're taking the wrong medicine. And of course, you will learn how to pluck out of your life what is not wanted or needed, and how to replace it with your true desires and dreams so they stay and they are no longer just fleeting moments. So happiness will become more prevalent in your life. I mean, there's always going to be moments of sadness. There's going to be moments of anger. Anger's not a bad emotion. A lot of people think anger is this bad emotion. It's not. Justified anger is fine. There are moments when it's appropriate to be angry, but you should not be dwelling there and living there and always in that, bubble of anger kind of thing. So mankind is a funny beast. We really are. Humankind is a funny beast. Shamans and healers have been around since the beginning. They really have. Witch doctors, whatever you want to call them, right? And as a student and practitioner of these healing arts, what I do is we are going to work with energy, and often society looks down on these practices and, like I mentioned before, call it woo-woo stuff and has no scientific basis. I'm going to talk about that. But in fact, what we shamans have been doing is working with quantum physics, something that is only now being fully understood and discovered in the scientific community. Prayer, spells, intentions, chanting, meditations, creative visualizations, all have very powerful and real effects. They are working in the quantum world. And I love this quote. It's by Professor William Tiller of Stanford University. And the quote is, "Future medicine will be based on controlling energy." Not so much the pills and the radiations and things like that. It'll be about controlling energy. Albert Einstein started the ball rolling by giving us many theories, among the most famous, of course, being E equals MC squared. I'm sure some of you have that on a t-shirt somewhere. In other words, everything, what that formula means is everything is energy. Everything, absolutely everything is energy. And Madame Curie, if you remember her, with her energy work in radium and X-rays, showed us how beneficial and how damaging energy can be. It can be for good, and it could be not so good as well. Medicine, at least in the Western world, is still very much behind and trapped in a very Newtonian way of thinking. Doctors, along with Dr. Google, use what is referred to as symptom complex. And this is a way of treating patients. You go into your doctor, and how many times have you done this? You list off the symptoms. I've got A, B, C, and D happening. Then he gets out or she gets out the big book of illnesses, and they match up the symptoms to the disease. And they start treating from there. They start treating the symptoms as opposed to the illness or the disease. And you know what the treatment of cancer is. I myself am a cancer survivor. And I heard this from a fellow cancer survivor, and I was like, oh, that is so true. Actually, no, I heard this from my son. Yes, that's where I heard this. I heard something else from another cancer survivor, which was very fitting. What I heard from the cancer survivor was cancer is one of those diseases that makes you sick to your soul. And he's right. He was so right. It goes on so many levels, and it does. It makes you sick to your soul. Now, my son jokingly said, but there is a grain of truth in here, a pretty big grain if you ask me. He said the cure for cancer is they take you to the brink of death and see if you can come back from it. That's their treatment for cancer. And that's what it feels like. Anybody who's ever had cancer and has had to go through any kind of chemo or radiation or anything like that knows, yeah, that's pretty much what they're doing. So let's talk about stress. What is this big stress that I speak of that needs to be healed, right? So some stress is something different in everybody. Again, it's not a one size fits all, right? What might take some to stress level 9, for instance, immediately is a walk in the park for other people. It's like, well, what are you getting so stressed about, right? So what some people find stressful, others are thinking, what are you getting so worked up about? And vice versa. But they are both valid. Both are valid in their stress, okay? In the end, you are stressed, and it doesn't matter why. What matters is that you are stressed, okay? So we're not going after the why. We're not trying to control that part, because it's kind of like, some people are born with brown hair, some people are born with black hair. It's not like you're in the womb going, yeah, I'm pressing the buttons of the eye color and the hair color that I want, right? So same thing with the stress threshold, it's called. So this stress threshold is something we're all born with, and some of us have a bigger stress threshold than others. Some of us get wound up here and others of us get wound up here, so we can go through more. It doesn't mean you're stronger. It doesn't mean you're better. It's just, it is, okay? That's the way it is. And that's okay. And it's not your garden variety stress. So it's not like, oh, I can take the boss yelling at me, no problem. That's not the kind of stress we're talking about, right? It's not everyday stress. It's not circumstantial stress. What I'm referring to is psychological stress. Okay, so this is the stress that puts our nervous system out of balance, and it presses the off button on our immune system. And I'm going to explain why it does that. Okay, so yes, I have a lot of notes. So there's different things that are happening to contribute to our psychological stress. One is all the information coming at us all the time. And especially in this day and age, we have advanced technologically speaking, the fastest of any point in humans' history. This is the fastest. New things are always coming out. And now, people are talking about always being on, always being plugged in, that sort of thing. So all this information is coming at us. So just to give you an idea of how much information is, we have on average about 5 trillion bits of information coming into our brains every second. Every second. 5 billion. And I said, yes, every second. That is a lot of information to absorb. Okay. So now when we are awake, we are actually using the slower part of our brain most of the time. If you've watched my Mystical Mondays, you've probably heard me talk about this a little bit, about how our brains work, okay? So there's the conscious brain and the subconscious brain. And the conscious brain is the one we use when we're awake. Like right now, I'm using my conscious brain. And it's the one that is the slower part of our brain. So we think we're fast thinkers and we're so clever. No, the clever part of us is asleep right now. No, I'm not really asleep. The subconscious brain doesn't ever go to sleep, because we would die if it did. But our conscious brain and okay, so the slower part of our brain we're using, let me see, I got ahead of myself here. So our conscious brain actually processes about 10,000 bits of information per second. It's a lot of information. 10,000 bits. We got 5 trillion coming at us though. Okay. And we filter out the rest. But we don't just throw it away, because that's not what happens. What happens is our conscious brain goes, okay, I'm taking this 10,000 and the other 4 trillion plus, they send it off to the subconscious, because the subconscious is the mind that takes in everything. And that's why we dream, because what it's doing is it's processing all that information and it's trying to communicate it to us the important stuff. And it does it through dreams, which are pictures, because it's faster to communicate through pictures and patterns. Okay, because as humans we pick up on patterns. It's in our DNA. We recognize faces and patterns, and really a face is a pattern, right? And that's the first thing we always see. That's the first pattern we always notice over and above all other patterns. But we're geared and designed to recognize patterns. So our subconscious brain speaks to us in pictures, and that's why you have these reoccurring dreams, right? Because it's sending the same picture, the same purple gorilla sitting on a balloon, in your living room, right? Like, it's like, well, why is that, So we have these reoccurring things because the subconscious knows we pick up on patterns, and the subconscious is trying to tell us something in a picture. Thus the old adage, a picture's worth 1,000 words, because it can't possibly say to us the amount of information it needs to relay, because there just isn't enough time in the day, let alone in the night. Because at nighttime, that's when the subconscious is very, very active. And it's very active in our mind as far as dreams are concerned. So the other 4 billion plus, or trillion plus actually, are for the subconscious to take in. Not as fast thinking as you thought you were, right? So the subconscious is all part of what's called our PNS, and that stands for parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system, okay? And this is the part of our brain that automatically digests our food, grows our hair, puts the nutrients where they're supposed to be, the poop where it's supposed to be, and you don't want to get those two things mixed up, and the subconscious is pretty good about not ever getting that mixed up. And that's what grows our fingernails. So like if you can imagine, imagine every day if the subconscious wasn't doing these things, you would have to sit for 10 minutes and grow your hair, grow, and tell your hair to grow. After a meal, if our subconscious didn't take care of our digestive system just naturally, we would have to sit and go digest, and I need a half hour after eating because I got to go digest, and I got to tell my body to digest. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there in my stomach and rot. So our subconscious takes care of so many of our automatic functions, make sure our organs are working the way they're supposed to be working. Okay, so take that in. And if we were doing all these things that our subconscious wasn't doing, we would spend our whole day growing hair, digesting food, sloughing off skin, developing earwax and poop and snot in our nose. That would be our whole day. But thankfully, our subconscious does all of that for us. But we also have the SNS part of our brain, and that's the sympathetic nervous system. It's also known as the fight, flight, or freeze system. Most people know it as the fight or flight, and they forget the freeze part. Freeze is actually part of that system. So, like when you get super strength to fight something, or you have super strength to run, but some people and some animals in the animal kingdom also just freeze, right? And that's part of the defense as well. So that's why, I just froze. I couldn't do anything. I didn't understand. You're in the freeze mode. You're in that mode, that SNN, that SNS, the sympathetic nervous system is kicking in. So it's a life-saving system, right? This fight or flight system, life-saving, did wonders for us as we progressed in our humanity. It's what trained martial artists hope that kicks in when they're, being attacked. They're hoping the muscle memory. When you develop muscle memory, like when you're playing a piano, and some people just are able to sit down, yes, they practice, but they can just sit down and play. And martial artists in the heat of the moment, this is me defending and this is me attacking. And it's not like they're thinking ahead necessarily. A lot of it is instinctual, as they might say, or muscle memory. And that's why they repeat the moves over and over and over and over again to infinity, because they want the body this is the natural move I make when A happens, I do B kind of thing. And this is where our minds, the conscious part, where we don't have to think, our bodies just react. So psychologically, things dramatically change in our bodies when this SNS part of our brain kicks in. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the science behind that. So when this happens, our blood flow switches completely. It's not a regular blood flow anymore. So our blood is flowing to our muscles because we need the muscles to fight or run. I don't know about freezing, but but anyways, it brings our blood to our muscles in big, huge quantities because it wants oxygenated blood to get there really fast, right? And it swings it away from and even shutting down completely. Now, this is temporarily, of course, shutting down completely our digestive system, certain parts of our brain, in particular the frontal lobe, because this is where we make decisions from. So it shuts that down. And that's why muscle memory is very important, if you're a martial artist, because a lot of times when you're under attack or whatever, the frontal lobe does shut down, and therefore you can't make the decision necessarily. So it becomes just this is what we do. This is a reaction to our defense, right? It also shuts down our creative centers because, like when you're running from the mammoth, you don't need to be sketching it, you don't need to be journaling about running away from the mammoth. You just need to run away from the mammoth, okay? And it can shut down our immune system. Again, it's designed to do this temporarily. It swings the blood flow from that into our muscles. It can shut down our liver and kidneys, again, temporarily. It's not, we're shutting it down, boys, kind of thing. But because we are fighting for survival, we don't need those systems for a few minutes, okay? And then we get a huge boost of adrenaline, which gives us both power, speed, and strength. So when the brain shuts those systems down, not only is it able to rush blood to us, but it rushes oxygen and adrenaline to us as well. So we get that, I'm strong, I'm fast, I know one time I was saving my dog who was in the middle of the road and an 18-wheeler was coming. And I've never run so fast in my life. Like, the adrenaline was definitely going. I ran and he was saved. So that's good. He did not get run over. But yeah, I ran at a speed that I have never seen myself run since or ever before. So we can get that power and speed and strength to almost superhero levels. We've heard of the mother who's lifted the car off her baby and things like that. So when we get that rush of the SNS part of our brain when we're in fight or flight mode, then we get that huge boost of strength and power and speed. But again, we aren't supposed to stay there either, or go there multiple times a day, or repeat cycles for days on end. How often do you get to that point where you're just driving to work because the bad drivers out there just causing you to road rage kind of thing, right? Because we are not supposed to do this over and over. It's an emergency system. It's red alert for those of you that are Trekkies. It is not work, and because we're doing this over and over again, it is now working against us. Okay, so this system has been abused because we're always on, we're always plugged in, we're hitting high adrenaline all the time, many times, repeated times, and now it's working against us. Okay, so going into SNS, or high alert, red alert, looking for threats. And that's what you do when you get to that level. You start looking for threats. And they've done studies on road raging for that people who are at that road rage level are looking to fight, and not just to pick a fight. They're in that level, so they're perceiving everything as a threat. And every driver behind the wheel of a car, in their brain for those moments, are seen and perceived as threats. Okay, so that's why you get these random guys just, or women or whatever, kicking cars and smashing windows and hitting people and stuff like that sometimes, right? So you're in that mode of looking purposely for threats. So it's kind of like, yeah, you're looking for a fight, right? And it puts stress on our system, which is fine, totally fine. Some stress is not bad stress, right? But you're not supposed to have stress all the time. So, which is fine as long as it's within our stress threshold. Remember I said some have big ones, some have little ones. So we have to figure out what your stress threshold is. And we all have a threshold, and some have larger than others, like I said. This is, it doesn't mean you're stronger, like I mentioned before either, just because you have a bigger one. But when we are repeatedly and unnecessarily in this mode of red alert, the stress threshold may start to overflow, even those of us with big ones, right? With large ones. And this results in a toxic system that starts to manifest or show its symptoms physically. It starts mentally, and, so you're tired all the time, or you're feeling down all the time, or you're more emotional, you react sort of inappropriately sometimes, and then it starts manifesting physically as well. And they say many diseases, such as diabetes and high blood pressure, are silent killers. Okay, so a lot of people are walking around with diabetes and don't even know it. A lot of people are walking around with high blood pressure and don't even know it. The real silent assassin is stress, because all those things, diabetes and high blood pressure, are a result and a symptom of stress. Okay, so what happens is it permeates the cell. First one, so the stress, when we're in those high octane red alert moments, the stress starts to break through a cell. Just one, and then two, and then three, and it goes on, and it keeps going like a Pac-Man eating the pills. Okay? So it keeps going, especially if we're repeatedly going to that red alert level. Okay? It shuts the cell down. Once it permeates the cell, it shuts that cell down, stopping both healthy growth and repair. Because, and now this is important, okay, so pay attention here, a cell in a healthy growth and healing state is impervious to disease. A healthy cell in healthy growth and healing state is impervious to disease. If the healing machine of that cell, and every cell has a little healing machine, and it makes us a big healing machine, has a healing machine within it because it's its own little world. Every cell is its own little world. And that stress gets into us and it permeates one cell. Then it learns how to permeate the second cell. And it's shutting down each cell as it goes of its normal, natural state that it normally is in, which is health, growth, and if something attacks our body, we heal it and it goes away. And the disease doesn't stay within us. It doesn't mean if your cells are totally healthy, you won't catch a cold. You can catch a cold, but it'll be gone really fast. You don't hang on to it for weeks on end, right? You'll notice like a lot of people now say, I remember getting a cold or the 24-hour flu, which doesn't exist anymore, right? Like everyone's like, no, there's no such thing as 24-hour flu. If you get the flu, you're down for a couple of weeks, right? Because our cells are getting penetrated with stress, okay? It's designed that way, our cells, to be impervious to disease. We are a body of cells designed to be naturally impervious to disease, okay? So why shut down the immune system? Why is the stress doing this? Because, so it's important in survival, when we're fighting for our life kind of situations, the immune system is important, but not as important when we're in those moments. And when we're in that fight or flight, freeze mode, red alert, mode, as I call it, The immune system is not seen as important in those moments. So if we're always there, our immune system is not being treated as important for longer and longer periods of time. Okay? So because the immune system, when we get into that red alert zone, steps aside for a moment, okay? And because it's busy fighting bacteria and virus and fungi, and it makes repairs and it destroys the abnormal cancer cells, right? So this is, so it thinks, like, oh, okay, well, we're in fight and flight. I don't have to fight the bacteria right now. We're healthy. And he thinks that we're sending him on a 5-minute coffee break. But really, because we stay in this zone for far too long, or maybe a healthy smoothie because he's a health freak, right? Because he's the guy that makes us healthy. So he thinks he's going for a 5-minute break of some kind, whether it's a healthy smoothie or coffee, and not a 14-day vacation, right? So he shuts the immune system down thinking, I'll be right back. 14 days later, he still hasn't come back because he's been having to step aside this whole time. So the reason it steps aside when the red alert is signaled is the immune system actually requires huge amounts of energy to work. So it requires a lot of energy to keep our immune system going, okay, to fight off these diseases. Because there's a lot of stuff in us and on us, all the time. Stuff we don't see, right? But if you knew, you'd be like, ow! But it's there, okay? And all of us have it. Trust me, it's not. Cooties don't belong to just one person. We all have cooties, so deal with it. So that's part of the reason that healing is a nocturnal activity. So this is why you get tired after surgery when you're sick with a cold or the flu, or you have some kind of illness. You often tired, like, even like diabetes and fibromyalgia, for instance. You'll go in and you'll be complaining of tiredness, right? I'm always tired, and that's because your body wants to turn on the immune system again, and it wants to heal you, and it does it more efficiently and at much deeper levels when you're sleeping at a nocturnal level. So again, that's why you get tired. I used to own a spa where, I did all the spa things like manicures and pedicures, and I did facials as one of the things. And when teenagers came into me with this acne that they wanted treated, one of the first questions I would ask them is, how much are you sleeping every night? And almost 9 out of 10 of them, I would say, easily would say, yeah, I'm not sleeping so well. I'm burning the candle at both ends. And, I might get this amount of sleep. Like last night I got 4 hours, but I usually average about 6. It's like, that's not enough because your skin won't have time to heal itself. And thus, if you're more prone to acne, you need more sleep in order to help get your skin back to, not acne-like. So that being said, it's a nocturnal activity. Your body does most of its healing when you are sleeping. And this is because the other systems are slowed down. If we're having to use this huge amount of energy for the immune system to run, and we do that during the day while our liver is going and our digestive system is going and all these other things are doing, it's very hard to steer that much energy that's needed. So that's why we do it when we're sleeping, and not just resting. You need to sleep, because then your digestive system slows down, your kidneys slow down, because it's like, she's asleep for the next 8 hours. We won't make her have to pee until, 5:30 instead of 6 or whatever. It seems like the kidneys are ready to go before you are. It's like every time I get up in the morning, I have to pee. That's the first thing. I got to pee. So like I said, most of the healing is done when you're sleeping, because that's when the other systems are slowed down. And now, how much sleep are you getting? Right? And this this society, for the most part, is not getting the amount of sleep that we need. We seem to admire those that can get by with 4 and 5 hours of sleep. You must be so productive. You must be getting a lot done. It's like, no, it'd be better if you got 8 or 9 hours of sleep, and you'd probably be more productive and getting more done, kind of thing. Are you getting enough to give your immune system the time to heal and repair? So Albert Einstein's quote is, all matter is energy, all of it. This mouse, this microphone, my glasses, my face, your face, the chair you're sitting on, the laptop you're watching this through, or the tablet or the computer, whatever you're watching it on, all matter, all energy. It's all energy. It's how we perceive it, right? And another quote that I really like is Professor Murray Gell-Mann, a Nobel Prize laureate in 1969, again from Stanford University. Body chemistry is governed by quantum cellular fields. So they're, like I said, they're catching up right now. So this is the introduction to the keys of happiness. So now that you understand why some of the systems work the way they do, you can already start moving towards that place of happiness. And one of them is getting more sleep. It doesn't matter, like if you step to 1, that's okay. If you're a night owl, be a night owl. But just try to get at least 8 hours of sleep every night and try to get uninterrupted. And if you have interrupted sleep, or if you're have insomnia, then those are issues that need to be dealt with, because you're not getting the healing time that you need, and you need to figure that out, right? So it's not when you sleep per se, it's how much sleep are you getting to give your body that amount of time to be able to repair itself. Because some people find it's better for them to sleep like 4 hours here and 4 hours there too. So figure out what your rhythm is. Just make sure you're getting the sleep within a 24-hour cycle, enough of it so that you can start to repair and give that energy to the immune system, and watch how fast or how often you go to the red alert, and learn how to talk your way out of those, talk yourself down, so to speak, so that you're not in those red alert. And that's where the healing or the happiness sessions come in, those one-on-ones, because I can't give general stuff out here. It's just, it would take forever. We're already over an hour in just explaining what I did explain. So I hope that helped. I'm glad you were here. Please tune in next Friday for the first key of happiness. This was a moment of introduction and understanding. So the first key will come next Friday. I hope you can be here. If you can, please subscribe and ring the little fairy bell, and that will tell you when the next video of the keys of happiness is out and ready for you to view. Okay, take care, and merry, wise, and gentle be. Bye.